you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
Oh man, Mike, I don't know if I can let you take any more time off after what happened this past week.
I'm scrolling around here looking for the little funny nose and eyeglasses thing that I have. I was going to wear that today.
Who is the manager? Was it the Mets? What's his name? When he's in the duck, he got ejected, and then he's in the dugout and he's wearing the like fake mustache after he gets ejected. What's the name? It's in the '90s. God damn it, I can't remember it now. You know who I'm talking about, though, Mike.
I've known a lot of Mets. I've been around long enough to know a lot of Mets managers, so it could be anybody from Casey Stengel to Davey Johnson to anyone.
Yeah. Speaking of sports, Mike, did you get to watch any football or tennis this weekend?
No, I really didn't. Yeah, I didn't.
Really, you didn't watch any pool this weekend?
No, I didn't. I didn't watch anything for the past week. I didn't watch it. It was great. I mean,
Perfect. Well, I got a lot of stuff to share with you then, buddy, and a lot of opinions on said things to go and share with you as well. I'm pumped to be back, Mike. There's a lot going on.
I'm making a disclaimer now because I know there's all sorts of people going to be listening to this. This is all one person's opinion. Okay.
Well, it's a lot of speculation because it's hard to get answers these days, right? So and it's going to be a lot of assumptions and opinions and nothing concrete. But I know I got I've been hearing a lot of things. I'll put it like that, Mike. So I'm excited to jump on into it. I don't know where you want to begin, Mike, because there's a lot of stuff going on while you were gone, and you've been kind of catching up since you've been back in the office. I saw you share a post on Billiards Digest from Absolute Pool regarding some players that are not in the World 10 Ball Invitational list, and one that stuck out to me, Mike, and I just want to start there. And we always end up having Jason in the show at some point or another, but I saw Jason announce for the World 10 Ball, and then I saw that he wasn't on that Absolute Pool post as far as not being invited. But Mike, I want to ask you off the bat, are you surprised that Jason's playing in the World 10 Ball?
No, not really, because there are no conflicts. So, listen, at the end of the day, Predators running the World 10 Ball, right?
Yep.
They want Jason in that, people might say Predator hates Jason. Jason's all WNT, things like that. Jason's still a great draw and a great player and deserves to be in a field like this, right? So, listen, like I was saying, at the end of the day, Predator wants the strongest field they can get, right? Their hands are tied to a large extent with this tournament because they're having it sanctioned as an official World 9-Ball tournament. So now they don't have, 64 players that they can just pick the 64 players. They have to follow the WPA rules, right? Which is part of the reason Matchroom doesn't want to go through all this sanctioning crap. So, for this field, they had to go top 32 WPA
rankings, right? Wherever you currently are.
So all these WNT players who lost all their points after playing in Hanoi last year are out of contention for the most part, unless they finished in the top 8 or so at the World Pool Championship, which was a WPA. They all started gaining points again at the World Pool Championship. So Federer,
an exception, right?
Federer is ranked high in the WPA right now because he's ranked in the top 20 or something like that in WPA because he finished second in the World Pool Championship. Just like that, he made up a lot of those points that he had lost. So he's in there, right? So you got 32 top WPA players. Then you got 32 players that had to be given to WPA continental federations, European Federation, Asian Federation, BCA, right? They all get the lap up. So that's 32 more. That's 64 of your 96 right there. Right?
How many players is in this tournament, Mike?
They held out
96. Is it a 96 player field?
96. So then Predators really left with 16 wild cards. Out of the 96, they could select 16 on their own. That's it. So, they were handcuffed as much as anybody else. So out of those 16 spots, they had already decided they were going to invite former champions.
Okay.
All right. So you got Kachi, you got the Coe brothers, you've got Wojciech, you got Beato, you've got Darren Appleton, you've got Mika Immonen, right? So now you're chewing up part of that 16 already. Yeah. Now you've only got about 8 spots left for the rest of the WNT guys who are fantastic players who don't fit any of those. They're not getting any of the federation spots, that's for sure, right? So, so that's how a guy like Fran gets left off. And then they tell him, well, you can come, there's 16 spots that are going to be available through this qualifier.
You can play in a qualifier. Is that a little insulting, Mike?
Yeah. It is and it isn't. Listen, they're not doing it to thumb their nose at them. They're doing it because they ran out of spots.
You don't think a guy like Fran isn't like thumbing the nose a little bit, being a former Predator player and all that?
Listen, you can, all that stuff, the cloak and dagger stuff and the conspiracy theory, maybe there's something to it, maybe there isn't. I just know that if I'm looking at it, I could see where he would be on this kind of like fringe list. He's not going to fit in the WPA top 32. He's not going to get anything from a Continental Federation. Yeah. He doesn't play in the qualifiers. So that leaves those 16 spots. Like we just went through 9 former champions. There's not a lot of spots left. So who do you give them to? Jason got one. Shane got one.
Okay, well let me ask you this. Hold on, because I don't want to get like too far off track here. Do you feel like Shaw's a better draw than Fran is?
Yes.
But do you feel like Fran has been playing more consistent than Shaw has over the last 2 years?
No doubt about it. Not even close.
It's
So what do you pick? I mean, that's what makes a wild card a wild card.
Yeah.
Duong obviously is a wild card. So there's another wild card spot. You're not picking Fran over Duong. You're playing in freaking Vietnam.
Yeah.
Right. Other Asian players. Robbie Capito.
Fran's pretty popular out there in Vietnam as well, though.
Yeah, he is. But listen, these guys got to sit around in a room and make a decision. It's like those final teams for the decision.
Right? They feel like the decision's part of the problem. Is here we are a year later, and everyone's kind of feeling the repercussions of some of the choices that they made. My only thing and listen, like you, I like seeing the best players, right? Like no matter what, like that's always going to be paramount over whatever bullshit or personal agendas going on, like in sports, especially in ours. But the only irony in the Jason selection for me is he was he was carrying the flag of 10 ball being irrelevant for Matchroom for years. Like any chance you can get to go and shit on 10 ball via social media, you saw Jason and Emily just in every comment and every thread and irrelevant this and irrelevant that. And then here he is playing in the World 10 ball. That's like, listen, I get loyalties to themselves in terms of players and all that stuff, but
so is there a conspiracy theory in there for why he got picked?
No.
I mean, I know why he said yes. Anybody would say yes.
He's a draw. So he's a great. Everybody wants to watch Jason play, for, like no matter what.
So then, what's the problem?
I find it a little funny. That's all. It's just it's just a little interesting. Because let me ask you this, Mike. Do you feel like if people had a chance to go back, and obviously life's not affording us that opportunity, do you think those players would still choose to play in Hanoi last year? A lot of those players who are off said list.
I don't know. It's I'd love to be a teenager again, knowing what I know now. But it's like it's one of those. You never knew how it was going to shake out. You picked your side back then because you had to, or you felt the need to, or you wanted to, whatever it was, and you got to live with the consequences. I mean, there's consequences to, getting back together. This whole thing of,
Are you getting
players
relationship advice here, or are we talking about like WPA and Matchroom, Mike? Where we Where are you going? Where are you going? Oh, I was about to say we need some relationship advice on this show every now and then too. You know.
Oh yeah, you don't want. Yeah, ask my wife if I'm qualified to give relationship advice.
Touche, my man. No, look, it's interesting some of the players that are on there, and I agree with you, and it is to a large extent because of some choices that are made. But like, and while I can respect their them giving spots to former champions, like that's cool. I don't want it to be like at the expense of it. And I know there's no like perfect system here, right? Because someone's always going to feel shorted or feel like they're deserved or not deserved or whatever. But I still wish we can get.
Well, if you look at the list of past champions, the only two on there who would be suspect in terms of whether they earned a spot over other people would be Mika and Darren, right? The other champions, Beato, he should be in
100%.
anyways. Wojciech should be
100%.
in anyways. The Cole brothers, Clenty, all those guys, they're in. So it's a good thing to do, and it essentially what it did was it opened up spots for other players in that rankings thing, because now Wojciech didn't use his number 8 ranking; he used a wildcard spot, or vice versa. You could have kept him in number 8, and it freed up Predator for another wildcard spot. So, this thing of allowing the former champions actually kind of opens up a couple of spots. So, it's just how you manipulate it.
It's always about the spin train, huh, Mike? How you can spin the story, So, well,
you try to find ways to make it the best tournament you can make it. Okay, so you want to have your wild cards because you're going to be at Vietnam, and you want to have Duong in there. Okay, you're going to make sure you've got something in your system that allows you to pick someone like that, right? Or a Shane, or so. Yeah, you kind of I don't know if you start backwards or what. You look at ideally what's the best field we could hope for, and how do we come up with rules to make sure we get as close to that field as we could get. But they're stuck in the WPA system of having to have the top 32 and then also giving 32 spots to the federations. So that's why you've got like every Polish player under the sun except for Victor.
It's pretty fucking brutal.
Okay, so yeah,
it's pretty brutal, especially for a kid like that. You know what I mean? Who would be a pretty good contender for a World 10 Ball Championship. And there's a lot of other players who aren't going to be in there. Chua, Ruiz, Alcade, Niels, Jonas, Mickey, Moritz, Bernie, going off of the absolute pull post, Rhoda, and Sky. The Sky one I'm not so surprised about, only because he doesn't play WPA events. He barely plays matchroom events as it is, outside the U.S. So that one's not so surprising. But like I get needing to appease the WPA and allocations and only afforded so many spots. At the same time, it's just it's still another major tournament where you're not going to get a quality field like we should, and all those guys on said list would be there and compete in the heartbeat.
And like I said, trust me, Predator would rather have some of these other players in there. If you look at the players who are in the field and you look at some of the players who aren't, believe me, they would like to replace some of those names to have a stronger field. I mean, they're paying, if you're a sponsor, you want the best field. If you're trying to promote it, to television, streaming, whatever, you want the strongest players. So if you look through the field, you're like, yeah, I think, we'd probably rather have some of these other guys in here.
Look, like a guy like Shane, like, isn't too surprising, like, in comparison to Jason for me, because, it's like Shane's been vocal in the sense that, like, hey, listen, I don't want to get banned anymore, right? We played that game before. I want to win world championships. Like he's been vocal and on the record for it. And it's going to be curious to see how these next like 2 months go, because we're about to hit the foot on the gas here, Mike, in terms of events out there in Asia. You get the World 10 Ball along with some other women events that are going on as well. China Open is going to be starting in a couple of days, which I'm pumped about. I tried to get Yap on while you were gone. Me and him been going back and forth for the last few days. That dude's just busy winning tournaments overseas. So we'll try to we'll try to get him on during sometime the next few days, hopefully. Excited to ask him a few questions. But
did you see? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mike.
Now, did you see this qualifying tournament that they had to lead into it? Do we know who on this list was from those? Or no, they're not even on the list that's listed right here, right?
On the World 10 Ball list?
That hasn't even happened. The stage 1 qualifiers hasn't even happened yet. So we're at
I think. Oh, we're talking about the China Open, or are we talking about
that's on the Predator?
What are we talking about here, Mike?
The list that's on the Predator page.
Oh, okay. So World 10 Ball
is 80 players.
Yeah, I think they're gonna. I think right now they've been having
80 players. So
they've been having qualifiers.
So all these players
qualifiers, I think, in Vietnam.
Right. Yeah. So all these players got on either through WPA Top 32, Continental Federations, that type of thing. So, the King Ling Yips and, whoever.
And that kid can shock the world. He's what is he, like that Korean player, if I'm not mistaken, right? Real sharp kid.
He's from Hong Kong, isn't he? Or
maybe you're right. Maybe it is Hong Kong. It was one of those obscure countries. But anyhow,
so
I wanted to ask you, Mike, because along with the World 10 Ball news, there was also some matchroom news over the last few days while you were gone as well. Obviously, we knew about the Reyes Cup. We've known about the Reyes Cup. But last week, they announced some new qualifications for not Reyes Cup and Moscone Cup next year, but for Moscone Cup and Reyes Cup for this year, which it's September, and the events happen in a little bit of time, Mike, in like a month or two, or 3 months in some case. Are you surprised that they updated the qualifications so late in the year, Mike?
I mean, we've been moaning about this for months. How and I think they didn't know. They didn't know how they wanted to do it till it got later. They started seeing who they were going to get left with, who they wanted, So, if you look at the qualification system for the Reyes Cup, it's essentially, at this point in the game, is kind of a hand-picked system. It's the promoter control, for the most part, controlling who's going to be on the team. And that's certainly their prerogative. I mean, the Reyes Cup is still new. It's still early. It's still trying to, get its legs. So you can be, the early days of the Moscone Cup, matchroom pick the teams. So this is as close to that as you can come because, rest of the world, the highest ranked players for rest of the world in Asia, were pretty much determined when they came out with this qualification.
And then it shifted.
So, it's like, okay, we're going to take the highest ranked American player. Well, that's certainly a guessing game at this point, right? The highest ranked player from the Philippines, guessing game. It's and then if you look past that, 2 captains picks. Okay, so the captains are going to make, quote, their own picks, and then one additional
last
WNT
year, right,
Pro
Mike? When Efren picked Wong.
And then one additional WNT Pro wild card, which is just a really blatantly obvious, we're picking someone. Yeah. Okay, so that's where your Duong comes in. They're kind of trying to orchestrate, to me, and not I'm not even saying there's anything wrong with this. They're kind of orchestrating the teams for this year. Okay, fine. I don't even have a problem with that. But what I have a problem with is that this should have been known eons ago, instead of holding a carrot out there in front of these players under the guise of any kind of merit-based system for getting onto these teams because there isn't one.
Isn't that what's been preached the last 2 years, Mike?
That part of it to me is disingenuous, right? So they should have, if this is the way they want it for next year, say it now, so the players know that it's pretty much going to be handpicked teams. Okay, it's just fair to do that for the players.
In terms of the Reyes Cup, right?
I'm sorry?
In terms of the Reyes Cup, you mean?
Yes, in terms of the Reyes Cup.
I think it's complete bullshit that they are announcing it this late in the year for the players, because all these guys are spending money, time away from home and everything else under the assumption that if I did A, B, and C during this range, then you were going to have I thought whenever they announced it, and I haven't gone back and looked at the video or anything, but I'm pretty sure if I were to go back and see that initially whenever it was announced, it was 3 off of rankings and then 2 wild cards, just like before, right? And while
I don't think so.
You sure, Mike? Because I'm like 80% sure that that's what I remember hearing at the time.
I remember people posting that right away. I remember like Absolute Pool posting it at the Reyes Cup, and it'll be the top 3, and they were just going off what last year was and assuming that it was going to be the same. I don't remember, and find something that's printed that said that for Matchroom, but I don't remember Matchroom actually saying that in any kind of release early on. So
be that as it may,
well, no, and even at that point, when people were saying this is, that it's going to be the top 3, and here's the current rankings for the top 3 and all that kind of stuff, they could have said, no, that's not going to be the case. We don't know what it's going to be yet, but it's not going to be that. Or they didn't know then. Like I said, I think that this was just all done from the hip in the last 3 weeks.
What's the point of doing it in the last 3 weeks, Mike? Do you feel? What's your honest thought?
Communication requirements. Putting all that together, putting it down on paper.
You don't think it's kind of coincidental that kid sitting at number 3 is now out of Reyes Cup contention, going into Hanoi and everything going on in Vietnam, Mike? Indulge me a little bit here, Mike. Let's go down this rabbit hole just for a minute.
Well, yeah. I mean, sure, it kind of freezes him out. He's not that far behind France. He's not that far behind France.
He's not. No, he's not. But he's enough to keep him off the team. And at this point in the season, in my mind, like everyone else, I'm thinking, okay, well, if he's in this range, or because of everything that's happened in the last 12 months, if he's in this range, he's qualified, you're in. And then now, even if you were to go back and look at this rest of the world rankings versus the European current rankings, it's different, because the way that they are picking teams for Reyes and Moscone Cup is different. I just think the timing is a little ridiculous, because it's not fair to the 9 Europeans and Shane who are qualifying for the team, and it's for a guy like Josh, or at least from the way that it looks like it's just another year where, for whatever personal issues are going on between Matchroom and Filler, that it's a way to keep him off the team, Mike, is the way that it comes across, at least where it's announced last week.
I don't know. I think that's an awful lot of trouble to go through for one guy. So, he's still certainly, a front runner for Moscone Cup.
Yeah.
Unless of course, you have to play Hanoi.
Well, it's
Philippines.
It's funny you bring that up, Mike.
To be up for consideration, because we know that there's going to be people who are going to skip Hanoi. We know that there are going to be people who are, it's going to be iffy on Philippines. So, the longer you string this out, the more you kind of push players into playing in those events. So it's, we'll see what happens. I mean, I have heard from several players that they were pretty much told, no Hanoi, no Reyes, no Hanoi, no Moscone, whatever it is. We know there's quite a number of these players are not going to be in Hanoi because of the World 8 Ball. Josh being one of them.
Josh being one,
right?
of them.
I mean, Josh is technically signed up for Hanoi, but pretty certain that he's going to play World 8 Ball, aren't you?
Yeah, I know where my money would be at where he's going to play. That's for sure. I know which side I would bet on. Look,
yeah.
From
so like someone like Shane. Shane's playing World 8 Ball.
Yeah. So okay. So let me ask you this: do you expect Shane to be on the rest of the world team?
No, absolutely 100% no.
What do you mean 100%? Is there something you want to spill the beans on?
No. In my opinion, 100% of my opinion is on
okay.
no.
See, I like the way you spin it a little bit there. That's Hall of Fame material there. No, look, it's when the news of the rest of the world came out, Shane was a big part of that announcement. They were quoting him. He was on the record for what he thought about the event and yada yada, and Jason for that matter. Out of those two, I'd imagine that one of them will be on said team. Now, I don't fancy it being Shane, obviously, so that only leaves one thought as to who it can be. I've heard, like you, that if you did not play Hanoi, that you would not be on Reyes Cup. But that was never like a formal announcement, right? That was always kind of one of these things that we've been hearing whispers about.
Carlo Beato was signed up for the World 8 Ball.
Okay. Is he playing the World 8 Ball still?
He is no longer on the list for the World 8 Ball.
So you mean to tell me he'd rather go and win 40,000 at the most in a matchroom event versus winning a world championship where you're probably going to get around 75,000 to the winner ish, right? Isn't that what it was last year?
How important is it for him to play in the Reyes Cup? For him, it's important.
Okay, let me ask you this: how fair is it? How fair is it for them to have to play in Hanoi in order to play in the Reyes Cup?
For my money, not really fair. Not completely. It's partially understanding. Let me put it that way.
What do you mean, Mike?
Listen, if I'm a promoter, I'm spending all this money putting these events together. It would pain me to see you thumb your nose at one of my events so that you can come around 2 weeks later and collect a guaranteed paycheck. Okay, that would irritate. So it's not like I don't understand the thought process.
Oh no, I mean, like, you're a pretty sharp guy. I mean, anybody with half a brain can read in between the lines here. I just wish that it wasn't in between the lines is my only issue, because like you, I just wish it was up front.
Well, I mean, listen, I would never expect a promoter to come out and say, here's the gun to your head. We just put a gun to Carlo's head, and thankfully he decided to play in Hanoi. Okay, I'm not going to go tell the world that.
Yeah,
but perception's reality.
I agree with you, and I feel like, listen, the last week and the way that some of this stuff is worded, right, in these like September announcements on how you can qualify for this year's events and all that, I feel like it completely undermines the way that the last couple of years, in terms of it being a merit-based process, has been positioned and explained. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of other things that are behind the curtain and off the record that players have been told as well. But like, when in terms of some of these things where like guys this is like their dreams, right? They want to play on Moscone Cup teams. They want to play on European teams. They want to play on Reyes Cup team, things like that. I would just hate for
they want to win world championships.
They do. Of course they do, Mike, because and especially as these events have grown in popularity, which they have, and grown in prize money and all these things, right? We've seen a ton of resurgence over the last 5 years of events coming back on the map after, a long dormant, 5-year, 10-year winter, whatever it is, but like, it's great to see all these things, all these opportunities for players. But then you have these whispers and rumors and and you better go play here, you better not go play there, whatever it may be. And it's hard when
Yeah,
when they're traveling and working and going across the world thinking it's one way when it's really a different way, you know.
well, you gotta. One thing you have to do is you have to understand the difference between 2 years ago and now. 2 years ago, you could be very, not Pollyannish, but you wanted to do everything the right way, and we're going to be merit based, and that's how you get into all these invitational events. And then the game changed, right? The game changed when it became a battle between WPA and Matchroom, and players were forced to kind of pick and choose. And now the fallout from that has forced, the main players, which are, WPA and Matchroom in this case, to kind of have to make decisions, maybe pivot a little bit,
Yeah.
change their business plan, change their approach, change how heavy-handed they are. But again, the main thing that you pointed out for is let's just stop using the word merit, because it's not in play right now. It may come back into play in a year if all this stuff gets ironed out,
Yeah.
and then you can go back to this very, fair merit-based system. But right now, the rules of the games have changed for everybody.
Yeah, if you didn't know before, you know now. And you knew as of last week. And listen, I love some of these events that they put on. Not some of them. I love all these events they put on in terms of like the Reyes Cup and Moscone Cup and invitationals and things like that. So like if you want to tell me, hey, we're going to cherry pick this team based off what we think is going to be the most whatever, like competitive entertainment, whatever, I'm fine with it. I'm completely 100% fine with it. And for some of these guys like a Jason who is getting put in for whatever other reason, right? The guy's box office. He brings asses in the seats, right? He brings a storyline and a level of like Connor to the event, which I can just appreciate, especially like in this sea of lack of personality. I'm fine with all of it, Mike. I just wish it would have been upfront with it, instead of it being kind of at the last minute announced. Because listen,
Again,
we see.
I think rules. I think it's all fluid. I think rules are being made up, changed, whatever, on the fly, all the time these days.
How much faith do you feel like the players have in Matchroom at this point, given the way that
that's a really good question, because that's a big concern. There's a lot of players, and you've talked to them, I've talked to them.
Yep.
There's a lot of them who don't really have a ton of faith in either side at this point. They're just playing where they think they can play and where they've got some opportunity. And, they went through the fallout last year. They'll go through the fallout this year. If it's different, if this fallout is from Matchroom instead of WPA, they'll fade that.
It's kind of ironic, though, Mike, isn't it? And it's kind of like sad for them. It's like when you think about it that way, at least to me.
Well, it just shows how it's the players who are stuck in the middle, getting pulled in every direction, and all they want to do is play good tournaments and compete and win championships and win money. That's it. That's all they want to do.
Listen, me and you have had pretty vocal and public opinions about the WPA over the last few years, I'd say. But at least in terms of where things are at today, right? At least with the WPA and their events, you know what you have to do, right? Because it's pretty black and white, and it's stayed that way for some time in terms of where you need to be to get an automatic. And then after that, well, now you're just rolling the dice, right? And for whatever reason, if you're not in the top whatever on their list, then you're not going to get an invite. But at least they've made it clear that, hey, in order to play this event, X amount are guaranteed to be merit-based, right?
Right.
That's the part where it's a little sad for me for those players to have to go through, because listen, some of these, and these are like the bigger names. Imagine these guys who are like on the fringe, who have been thinking one way and only to find out that it's being shifted a different way, and the reality when it comes to like you needing premier players in your events is becoming more and more like by any means necessary is what it feels like. And whatever little, like you mentioned, carrot that you can kind of go and dangle in front of players, by the way that this rest of the world rankings has shifted out, and the Reyes Cup, it's like, hey, listen, nothing's off limits. We can shift it up anytime.
Yeah.
You know,
one person's carrots, another person's gun.
a lot of these players you're not expecting to be at the World 8 Ball that's going to be overlapping the Hanoi Open. Is that a fair statement, Mike? A lot of those same players that are not going to be in the World 10 Ball.
Yes, and it's a fair statement for a couple of reasons. One, there's going to be people who are going to be in Hanoi because they, still have shot Moscone, or because to be a spiel between World 8 Ball and Hanoi, and all of a sudden you got a better chance of getting in decent money. And then there's going to be players who, like the World 10 Ball, are not going to be at the World 8 Ball, not by choice, but because they got froze out by the system.
Yeah.
Right. So you look at someone like Fran. What chance does he have at the World 8 Ball? He can't even gain any points, WPA points, at the World 10 Ball.
Oh, you mean to make up ground? You mean
he's SOL?
Yeah.
He's as far as WPA points, he's got one shot a year coming up for him, and that's the World 9 Ball Championship.
Do you think he regrets that decision today, Mike?
I don't know. That'd be a really good question to ask him if he had him off to the side, off tape.
I think I know where a lot of these responses would be, and I've heard on pretty good authority, Mike, that a lot of these players who are going to end up playing Hanoi, right? That a lot of these name players, marquee players, Moscone Cup players, Reyes Cup players, I hear that a lot of them were interested in playing the World 8 Ball. Now, of course, they weren't. Some of them were allotted spots like an SVB and deserving. But the ones who weren't, I hear a lot of them were interested in playing that event versus playing Hanoi, Mike, is what I heard.
There are. I mean, we look at two main players. When you look at Moscone Cup, I'm really anxious to see Shane and Jason where they're at that week.
What do you mean?
Whether they're at World 8 Ball or Hanoi.
Well, Shane will be in Indonesia playing the World 8 Ball, and Jason will be in Hanoi playing in that event. At least I think. Anyway,
we'll see.
So we'll see. Look, there's a lot of really cool events happening in Asia, and I don't want that to get lost in it all, because it's going to be jam packed full of pool. I mean, pool's just going to be coming out of your head here in the next couple of weeks, which is great.
And
and
that's where the promoters kind of end up adding to the mess, right? Because everybody wants to have their event in Asia right now. Everybody wants to have their events in Asia right now. So now you're going to get into those battles for dates and those battles for bodies, and that's where the players end up getting the short end.
Again,
is in turf wars between people who want, to be in a certain place at a certain time. So again, we'll see what happens next year. We'll see if the WPA has any, if WPA wanted to really increase its standing around the world, they will very publicly try to make some kind of effort to work out dates between Matchroom and Predator /WPA events for next year, so that the players can just play in all of them without getting screwed.
I think that the way
WPA can broker that, they would be in pretty good stead with players and fans around the world, right?
For sure, yeah. But I mean, there's always been this hope that that's what you're supposed to do, right? It's just your fucking job, right? And then it's we never, and as simple as that is, here between me and you talking on a microphone with nobody watching, right? It's a lot different, I'm sure, in between the parties that are involved, and I get all that, Look, I think that the way that it's feeling like it's shooting from the hip, the way that there's so much value put on the World 9 Ball Championship these days in terms of your ranking, right? And how deep that the calendar is, players getting exhausted, traveling, not just mentally, but financially as well, because it's a big difference compared to a
Yeah.
year ago
Oh,
from now, Mike, as far as the amount of players who are traveling and competing, right? And this was a big selling point for Matchroom to all these regional type tournaments is will you put our WNT stamp on it, you're guaranteed to have the who's who, the best players in the world show up to your events. It's not the case anymore, Mike. At least not this year, it wasn't, because there's a lot of players who are noticeably skipping said events and they're just like whatever about it. You know what I mean? The top
yeah.
remains the top, but it's like this further puts a value and an emphasis on, and I know there's an agreement in place, but like the flawed system that is the WNT rankings, I feel like it just creates more opportunity for if something were to be made to incorporate some additional events in there to have it be more balanced, right? Then you would have a truer assessment as far as the best players coming to the front. You know, not just the best players who played in the World Nine Ball Championship that week. You know, because that's the way that it feels like right now when you look at all these rankings. Um, Not to say that I wouldn't want Federer on a team, or I wouldn't want Carlo on a team, or I wouldn't want, all these players on a team, because obviously I would. You know what I mean? But it's these other guys, right? These secondary guys, the number 3 guys, players like that, is who's going to end up getting the short end of the stick. And look,
Hey,
what's that?
no,
No,
go
no, no.
ahead.
And a guy like Josh is the one that really annoys me because, listen, I know he's public enemy number 1 and has been for quite some time, right? And can rub people the wrong way, can rub people in his own locker room the wrong way, But when it from a fan standpoint, which, listen, nobody's above getting viewers at this point because there's not enough to go around. But from a fan standpoint, people want to see filler on that stage. They do,
Yeah,
they really, really do. And whether they like him or they hate him, they'll be tuning in to watch him. And I don't think they had that same passion
yeah.
for some of these other players who are on some of these lists. But anyhow, Mike, I want to transition a bit to the Moscone Cup. I mean, I guess it's a little bit of a different topic, I suppose, but let's talk about the Americans for a minute. Um, I think the rankings still the same, right? 3 off of rankings and then 2 captains pick. Is that fair?
Uh, yeah, World Nine automatic qualifiers for top 3,
Okay.
with cutoff being the Philippines Open. There's going to be playing captains, which is unlike the Reyes Cup. Reyes Cup again this year is non-playing captains.
Who do you think is going to be the captain,
And
Mike?
this year, I find it hard to believe it would be Efren again, but I could be wrong. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it'll be Carlo, and Carl, and I don't think it'll be Efren. I think I could be like Boosty, maybe for Asia, and for the rest of the world, I don't know. Last year it was Carl. Maybe this year it's Jeremy. Who the hell knows?
I think it's got to be someone who's like already going to
So
be in the region or in the building, right? Because you still got to think about budget and things like that as well, right?
yeah. But you got, as far as Moscone goes, it is going to be playing captains again. Who that's going to be? I think for Europe, you're pretty safe with Jason.
Yeah.
For the U.S., I don't know. I'm not surprised me at all if it was not Scott.
It would not surprise you if it wasn't Scott?
Correct.
Well, if it's a playing captain and it's not Sky, Shane's got no interest in that position whatsoever. He does not want to be.
I mean, it'd be interesting to see if Shane going to be in it. Well, if he's not in Hanoi, he's off the rest of the world. Is Moscone predicated on him playing the Philippines Open? And if he's not in the rest of the world, is he going to go to Philippines just for the Philippines Open? If he's not in the Reyes Cup, does he go there just for the Philippines Open?
I mean, if he's in the neighborhood, Shane would show up.
He wouldn't be in the neighborhood if he's not playing.
Yeah.
If he's not playing Reyes Cup, he's not in the neighborhood.
He's going home. He's going fishing.
Yeah. So a lot of interesting stuff coming up.
It's going to be an interesting couple of months for sure. Like you, I don't know either. And I would have thought after seeing Jason and Sky play golf together at some matchroom event. I don't remember where it was. Maybe it was Florida. I thought, okay, for sure they're going to be the captains again because they're already starting to like pad this story of Moscone Cup captains and all that, and let's slide up the rivalry already. Blah blah blah. I get all that. But now I don't know. Obviously, they're not above changing things at the last minute. So, like, if they don't know now, maybe they can still find out. Because that's not too far off course. I don't think it'll be SVB like you. I think he'll be on this team. Because I don't think you can afford to not have him in the event, given how last year went. And I know his Moscone Cup record hasn't necessarily been the best, but like if you were to take Shane off that team now, whether it needs to happen or it's gonna happen is a whole different conversation, And I don't think that it'll be this year, not yet anyway. And furthermore, like if he were to not be on this team, that might be the last time, at least in a few years, that you'll see SVB on a Moscone Cup team, which is kind of crazy to think about,
Yeah, I agree with you on all that. It just, again, how much does it matter whether he plays or doesn't play some of these other events? Because if other guys have felt like they've had a gun to their head to play an event, to be part of this, and then they turn around and they see someone like Shane get into the event when he didn't have to follow the rules that they followed, now you got some sour attitudes that direction, right? So you got to be really careful.
There's already sour attitudes after last week anyway. So what difference does it make at this point? You know what I mean? Like you
just have to be really careful how you cater. You got to treat people the same way.
I think it's
otherwise you lose.
Listen,
you lose.
That's life, though, Mike. You know what I mean? Like people are. It's not. You don't get treated equally, and as unfair as that can be in some aspects, that's just life, right? And I get all that. I just for standing on proper sport and merit and all these things, that's the part where it leaves that bitter taste in your mouth, like you're saying, And so, it's not fair, but I don't think everyone is SVB at the same time, So,
are you looking at this? The note from Fran?
No, what did he say? What did he say?
David and Jonas are looking for some work the week of September 20th.
This is not the funniest thing ever, man. It's
we'll do 3 shows that week. We'll have Fran on one day. We'll have David on the next day. We'll have Jonas on the third day.
Gladly.
And we'll pay you guys. Well, Mike will pay you guys for being on the show.
I will figure out a way to get you compensated for sure. If we can get him on doing recap shows. That's the part listen, that guy had the best stretch in pool that we've seen in like 50 years. Did that guy, And you're telling me he can't get a spot in one of those events? I think like on that hand, it's a little bit of that favoritism, buddy type stuff, because a guy like Fran, he should be in that same class and conversation like a Shane and like a Jason ought to be.
I have advice for all 3 of those guys: move to America.
They moved to America. Listen, we'll have you on the team for the next 20 years, buddy.
Team USA could use the 3 amigos.
Look, it's this whole situation over the last and I think like even though there's always a twist, and I've been saying this like every year, around this time there's always like a little twist. And as much as I expect there to be a twist, I did not expect that, what happened last week, Mike, because that's the part that's shitty, for these guys that are going to be like on that fringe and event. And you mentioned like them putting all their eggs into some of these like premier player baskets. I think like in the next couple of years, and it really come back to bite them in the ass, Mike, because you're going to have a shift as far as players who are deserving versus a shift into players who you've been pushing, and it's going to come to a head, and you're going to be left in this like weird mix of, like we haven't been promoting this guy, but where's this guy going to be playing at? Especially if there's overlapping dates and things like that. So it's like,
yeah, it's funny you mentioned that too, because you were talking before about how like with the rest of the world
point,
stuff, and well, now I'm going to throw some love to Jonas because I'm looking at the rest of the world thing and who would be up there, and you see someone like Jonas who's busted his ass this year and had some great finishes and is up there in the points and thinking that it was going to do him some good, and now he's getting toward that cash in part of the end of the year, and you look at it, you're like, I got no shot for any of this shit.
Well, let's see.
All of a sudden, everything got stacked against me, and I've got almost like no win. He can go win Hanoi, which would be cool. But so it just, again, that's where that whole where we discussed that merit and aspiration part of it, and if you take that away from the guys, it's not fair. It's not cool.
No, and I don't know what the ranking was prior to in terms of Jonas, but like this is the part where it shifts for me a little bit, and I know technically looking at the WNT calendar, a guy like Filler and Jonas for that matter, and any of the guys who are going to be on the fringe or on the outside looking in, you still got.
I mean, look at Claudio.
You still got the Perry Open, Mike, which is last year for me, Mike, was probably the best tournament of the entire year. And from a depth standpoint, it wasn't even close. I mean, it was by far the best tournament. And by the way, if anybody that watches the show is in that region during that time, go to that pool room. It is the absolute like top 5 pool rooms in the world, in my opinion. Obviously, the players would know better than me, but it's so beautiful. It's so nice in there. The drinks are great. The food is great. I mean, everything is unbelievable in that pool room. It is nuts. But I guess from that standpoint, you could have like a Filler make up some ground if he were to play in Perry. But if you're Filler, do you feel like he's even going to chase these like this ranking, given the fact that like things are kind of shifting at the last minute as it stands, Mike?
Yeah, who knows? Ask him. Send him a note.
Yeah, we'll get. I don't really like wasting my time these days, Mike. To be honest with you, so I kind of let that one go. And you know what? Listen, we'll speculate as long as we got to speculate, I suppose, till we get some clarity on there. Look, I'm going to be excited to watch the World 10 Ball. I'm excited to see a new game, a new twist. It's showcased differently, so I'm excited. And there's going to be, as much as there's great players who are being left out, and it may water it down to some extent, and we'll see on the tail end of that tournament. It'll afford some opportunities for guys who wouldn't have otherwise, so I'm excited for that as well. I know that there's like some balance to be had there. It just seems like there's a lot of like more bullshit and egos to get in the middle of it to keep it from like being able to be at its full potential. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I look for the World 10 Ball is going to be great. Hanoi, Hanoi and the World 8 Ball, that's kind of a different, I mean, Nick is talking about, we know SVB's not playing Hanoi, and we know Filler's not playing Hanoi. So pull up the rest of the world list again.
Okay, hang on a second.
Pull up the rest of the world thing again. Okay. So you got the top ranked European and the top ranked American. So the top ranked American's locked. That's Federer.
Congrats.
Let's also make the.
You're in, buddy. It was close.
Let's also make the assumption that since SVG is not playing Hanoi, can't be on the rest of the world, even if he wanted to be, even if we wanted him to be. So at that point, you're looking at Federer and 4 Europeans, right?
Yep.
For sure. There's no way you're picking a second American.
No, wait, time out. No. I won't go that far. I would not go that far because I think, and if you were to look at Hanoi,
really?
Yeah, no. I think you still, what Huang was to the Reyes Cup market, Mike, you still have to have an American on this team. So if it's not going to be
Federer's your American. Who else are you going to put?
You still need to have an American on the team. I'll still say that you still need to have an American on the team. So now
I say no. I say you got Federer and 4 Europeans, and you just took Josh out of it by playing in Hanoi. right?
By not playing in Hanoi.
By not playing in Hanoi.
Yeah. You got to have.
I mean, Nick says you have to have 2 Americans, and I would agree with Nick. You have to have 2 Americans if Shane is your second American. But there isn't. I'm not looking at this list of Europeans who've been crushing it in the past year and saying, I'm sorry, we need to put Lucas Fracasso-Werner on the team. Not buying it.
No, but I might buy number 5 on this list, Mike, as someone you might need. I don't know what the hell happened. Hang on. Let me see. Might have lost the. There we go. This guy at number 5, I might buy making that team. And I think you can spin it to get him on the team. And I know that
would be to me, that would be a hell of a spin.
Look,
that would be a hell of a spin.
Look, I know that especially if you just look at dollars and cents, you can't compare him in terms of like the year that he's had for some of these other players. Jonas comes to mind amongst others, right? But at the same time, like until you make it across that threshold of being in that player list to get special rules, you're always going to be on the outside looking in until you get in there. And a guy like Sky,
you think Skyler has earned special rules?
2-time Moscone Cup MVP, Mike, being the captain of the American team last year. You don't think that gives you enough to kind of to say, hey, I paid my dues a little bit.
Pull up the rest of the world list.
Okay, hang on a second. I'm coming.
Okay. Here's the rest of the world list.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you got Federer.
Federer's in.
Josh is off.
Josh, see you, buddy. Sorry.
Jason, right?
Jason's on.
Federer,
so there's
Jason
2.
Is locks. Federer, Jason is locks. In the next 3 Europeans, you're going to tell one of them, no, I'm sorry, $14,000 Sky is taking your place.
Pretty fucking brutal, ain't it? That's life, though, Mike. Yeah. I think that's life. Honest to God, I do. Now, whether I think that's fair or not is a different conversation. Me personally, look, listen. For an event like the Reyes Cup, I kind of look at it just a little bit differently.
Leo, Fran, Mickey, those guys have busted their ass and been at all those events, been at every event, which Sky hasn't, and done really well, which Sky hasn't. And you're going to, because you have to have another American on the team, you're going to tell one of those guys to stay home? I wouldn't make that call.
Well, Shane afraid to ruffle no feathers. We've seen that before. We saw that last week.
Who?
Somebody. Somebody's not afraid to ruffle any feathers.
Oh, she. I thought you said Shane. You said she.
No. Well, Shane. No. Shane either at this point.
Listen, it's their game, and they can. And like I said, I think this is a hand-picked situation this year, anyways. So they're going to do what they think is going to give them the best bang for the buck.
Yeah.
But I love Sky, and he's great in that Moscone Cup player.
He's really good in this team, in this environment, and he's great for TV, Mike.
Does he move the needle going to Manila to play in the rest of the world?
Leading into Moscone, yeah, I think so. I don't. Okay, does he move the needle compared to some of the other names on the list? You better fucking believe it. You better believe it. And listen, that's where like the off the table things are being valued a little bit more when you have these WNT wild cards, right? And you got POP events where you're inviting a kid like an AJ and guys like that. Listen, there's the pool world is starving for stories and for names and personalities, and when it comes to these big marquee TV events, the quiet Europeans ain't going to make the list, Mike, versus a kid like Sky, who's great in that atmosphere and great for working a crowd like Jason is, right? He's great for working a crowd. He brings a different dynamic. He can be super clutch in that team environment as well. There's a lot of positives that I feel like you can spin it. And if you were to look whether or not Sky is on the Hanoi players list, I think that gives you a lot of the answer that you need right there as well. Now, again, whether I think it's...
Yeah, no, listen, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I just think that, again, please don't ever say the word merit in front of me again.
Who do you think will be the 5 for the world, Mike? Like, who do you think should and who do you think will?
A lot of it a lot of it depends on who did I say might be the rest of the world captain this year?
So I think the wording was non-playing captain, right?
Yeah.
So
who did I say could be the rest of the world non-captain?
Double J. Right?
There's Sky's ticking in.
I'm not. Listen, Double J is already in the building. He knows that environment. He can. I think. I know he's a more than capable leader. You know. And I also feel like he's got enough.
If it's Double J, I think he picks Sky.
Would it still be his decision to be made, Mike?
Well, it works out well for both of them. It works out well for him and his and the powers that be. And so then you go. Then I'll buy Nick. If it's JJ or something like that, then Federer, Sky, FSR, Kachi, Shaw, and there's Jonas working his ass off.
Okay, let's see. Fucking brutal, ain't it? Okay, look, Federer, you're in, right? I think that things will stand as they are right now. Fran, he won the Perry event last year, Mike. He's very comfortable in Vietnam.
Yeah.
The one thing that I love about players like him is that they'll show up early, they'll get acclimated early, they'll be really comfortable by the time the tournament starting, which is great. Okay, so Fran, you're in. Jason's going to be the wild card. I still think you need a second American, so there's Sky, and then the fifth one. The fifth one, while I can understand the Kachi spin, right? Because the Philippines, you get a villain in the mix, right? Given all the social media stuff on there. And I do feel like he's in the lead for sure. I don't think it's set in stone yet because you could still have like a last minute bottom of the ninth type adjustment.
Yeah. Jonas has a big Hanoi Open. Changes the game a little bit. Although if Cledio's on the team, Big Kachi's going with him to the event. So the Philippines would light up like a Christmas tree.
As a teammate or as security for Cledio? Which one is it going to be, or both?
Well, who's going to be his security?
Kachi's
they're both going to need security.
Kachi's a big motherfucker. I wouldn't want to mess with him, man.
There's no
that's
doubt
a big
about
dude.
it.
That is a big dude. Look, I know that they're still gonna for me, going into Perry, if Josh ends up playing, Fran, I love you, buddy. I'd love to see Josh snap it off as like a big kind of like fuck you to the system. I'm not gonna lie, Mike. I really, really would. Because I do feel.
I still think Perry's Perry. Perry's a WNT regional event.
Yeah,
right?
but that was 200,000 last year as well, the same as Hanoi.
I understand. I know I'm talking semantics here. So I still think if Josh misses Hanoi, he's not playing Reyes.
So hypothetically speaking,
I don't care if he wins. I don't care if he wins Perry.
So hypothetically speaking, you're saying that if Josh were to win the Perry, which he's more than capable of doing, right? And then
skip Hanoi,
he would then leap Fran in rankings, but then skip Hanoi. You're saying that they would still find a way to keep him off the team?
If they're playing by the same rules that apparently they were playing with Carlo, because Carlo could listen. If Carlo skipped Hanoi and played the World 10 ball, would he be on Reyes Cup?
Say that again one more time.
If Carlo skipped Hanoi, played the World 8 ball, rather, would he be?
Yeah, I do think so, because I think he's a big enough
I think
name.
He should be. I think that, but he pulled out the World 8 ball to be in Hanoi. Why?
Well, but he wasn't in. Carlo wasn't in Hanoi last year and got to be on the Reyes Cup team. Am I wrong in saying that? So like it's not. I'm pretty sure he didn't, and so it's not like outside the realm of possibilities here. Now I know it's a different climate compared to a year ago, but even still, I think he's a big enough name and the current world champion where like you can't, and he's the current world champion in that market that you're going to be in for the Reyes Cup.
I'm buying all that. I just think that he dropped out of the World 8 ball and played in Hanoi because he was instructed to do so, or urged to do so.
Wink, wink,
Okay?
wink, wink.
So if that's So if that's the case, if that is true, and it's just speculative, it's hearsay, whatever. Also, some pretty decent sources. But if that's true, could Josh get away with doing the opposite?
Nope.
Skipping Hanoi and getting on Reyes?
Nope. No.
Okay, so
him.
Again, it depends on how this is. It depends on how the players are being told this is going to work.
It's going to make for an interesting couple of months. I'll tell you that, Mike. We talked about the rest of the world. I want to ask you real quick, who do you think is going to be the 5 players for the Americans going into Ali Pali? And more importantly, yeah. And are you excited like you have been in years past for the Moscone Cup?
Yeah, I gotta say no.
Honest to God, Mike.
No, I gotta say no.
No, I'm not either. I'm not either.
But anyways, who's my Europe for Moscone Cup?
No, give me the Americans first. I got the Americans up, and then I'll bring up the European list.
Oh, Federer, Shane if he wants to play, Tyler, Scott. I'll go with the top 5 right now. I'll go 1 through 5.
1 through 5. Oh, so you're putting Lucas on the team? Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Is that it? Is that who you think will or who should be? There's a difference there. I'm assuming anyway.
Well, I'll say both.
Okay, I like that. Personally, I think it'll be the same team as last year, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and look. I think that's who I think will. Who I think should is a whole different story, because I've said it a couple of times and I'll say it again. I think there ought to be a complete overhaul of that team. You know, I think you start with Federer obviously as the one, and then after that, let's figure it out together, because it has not worked the way that you hoped it would work. You know, and at a certain point, as much as you've been able to pivot a little bit, Mike used to like watching competitive sports, and I know you were a Bears fan and got to enjoy all that torture for all those years, you know, but people still like to win, you know what I mean? So I think there has to be a complete overall. I think that for a lot of these players, it's also like an exhausted storyline as well, you know, and I don't think you can go in there and have another 11-4, 11-5, even 11-6 type of year, you know?
You know what? You can do that as long as attendance keeps going up. When attendance starts going down, then you got a problem. Okay, so they lose 11-4 this year and go back to Caribe Royale next year. That play rafters.
So then why change it then, right?
Well, no, I mean obviously you want it to get more competitive. You want it, but is it? You know, we're going to hear all this stuff like, you know, between now and then. If Europe wins 11-4 again, they got to just cancel the Moscone Cup.
Yeah,
if Europe wins 11-4 again,
I'm not going to go that route. You know, I just listen. I want to have.
Well, you'll hear it.
I want to have some kind of like hope to hold on to when it comes to the competitiveness of this event, and I don't think that for a lot of players, and even their calendar this year will reflect like their level of commitment. You know what I mean? And I think
commitment, yeah.
I think that there's for some there's this attitude of I'm going to do just enough to not piss her off, and then for others like Shane at this point, Shane just I don't think he gives a fuck one way or the other. You know, he's going to go play World 8 ball. If you keep him off Moscone, so be it, and he'll do something else during that week. You know, I think he's been there, he's done that, but I do feel like given the way the event's gone the last couple of years, and Sky being the captain and everything that did, I feel like to undermine the spirit of the rule of like how you're going to go and earn a spot on that team or get picked on this spot of the team, I think completely set the U.S. back a lot of years personally. And there was a lot of factors that already put us way behind the 8 ball as it was in terms of being competitive. But like it just further, I feel like, put everyone underneath that rock. I think that you're going to start seeing a weird mix in the next couple of years of just squeezing the life out of every single storyline that you can, and people are just going to get tired of it to some extent. Ray says, I think we should do the same thing every year and expect a different result. That's basically what's happening, and personally, I think that you're going to have the same 5 guys go in there as last year. I think the writing's been on the wall since earlier this year, and then you're just going to try to like hope that people buy the bullshit of this is going to be like, a competitive and great event. And it's a fun event. It's a lot of fun, but you got to have some kind of hope, Mike, you got to have some kind of hope. And right now there's nothing that I can hold on to right now. So what about for the Europeans, Mike? And then we'll get out of here.
Again, a lot of it depends on, how Josh finishes the year in terms of, persona non grata or not. But definitely, well, obviously Jason is going to be on the team no matter what.
Yeah.
So, you're already starting with the top 4 instead of the top 5. So you got Josh.
Okay.
2 events. Yeah, because Moscone, Philippines. So you have 2 majors.
But you don't expect Josh to be in Hanoi. Do you expect him to be in Manila?
Philippines. I don't know why he wouldn't be.
He likes money.
Yeah. He's got a wife to, he's got to keep making that bread. So yeah, I mean, Fran for sure.
Yeah. Fran for sure.
Claudio, I think for sure. Jason, so that's 3. Where do you go there too? It's Josh and Jonas or Pius or any of those guys who the guy who has the best final 2 tournaments will be the last pick.
Well, yeah, like you.
I mean, because then you have guys who are in form, unless they try to do the same thing they did last year, which is, is the wild card. Let's take the same guys that we took to the Reyes Cup if we do well.
Well, that's part of the problem when you have these player captains. Part of the problem is you already know where their weighted loyalty is. Like Jason will put a value on someone who's been on the team more than anyone. So it's not going to be a long list. Sky will put a value on people that are close to him. We saw that last year, And so from that point, it takes away the fun of it all, where I feel like if you were to have somebody who doesn't mind shaking things up, it could make for a little bit more of an interesting storyline. But we don't know who the captains are, so it's just speculation at this point, right? I do feel, obviously I'm
you know who the European captain. You know who the European captain is. I mean, that's done.
Well, who, Jay?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you were to say that, you would still have Sky as a captain then for the U.S., wouldn't you? I would think anyway.
I don't know. Why would you have? I don't know why you would have to, but you could. I mean, there's certainly nothing wrong with it. And I don't know who a better choice would be as far as a playing captain goes. But you already know it's going to be Jason. That's not even a question. So who does Jason pick?
So who is Jason going to pick, Mike?
I think it depends on how comfortable he is with the crew that's in the Reyes Cup. If he picks that person or somebody else.
Who would that be, Mike? On
Philippines Open immediately after Reyes Cup, right?
Yeah.
Or before? Immediately after.
No, before. Before,
after.
Ain't it? Ain't Reyes Cup before? I mean, isn't Philippine Open before? There's a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit going on.
Shouldn't we know this?
You should for sure.
Shouldn't we know this? Hold on one second.
Maybe the fans can let us know. Look, I think
Reyes Cup is the 16th to the 19th. Philippines Open is 21st to the 26th. So the Philippines Open is after the Reyes Cup. So you could have the Reyes Cup and the rest of the world, or the third number 3 European or whatever, and that could all change if someone out of the blue wins Philippines Open from Europe, right? That could change everything.
So make sure and get the WNT TV pass for $9.99 so you can sweat all the action, right? No, look, I want to have things to have hope for and to be excited about, and this kind of took the wind out of my sails to some extent, and there was already like like enough reasons for the lack of competitiveness and all that to do so. And I do feel like, at least I want to be on the record in saying that I do feel like I still wish it would have been Asia versus Europe again, because I still feel like there was some more gas left in that tank, and it might have been a little too much of a reaction given the way last year went. But here we are, right? So,
well, and I totally get this format because it's the only way to get the U.S. into it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So it makes sense. And it becomes, I've come around to thinking this is actually going to be a pretty fun event.
The Reyes? Really, Mike? Because you were Mr. I don't like change.
Well, I liked the idea of U.S. against Asia, and I liked the idea of Europe against Asia, and the combination of Europeans in the weeks before the Moscone Cup kind of, I'm indifferent on that. But I have come to kind of think this is actually a pretty cool format.
Well,
so let's see how it goes.
If you have Federer and Sky on that rest of the world team, then it'll give at least two Americans a chance to get their wheels greased in the team environment beforehand, which is good. And Federer needs some more experience on that team environment because he hasn't performed well. He hasn't performed well in team environments at this point. And then maybe they'll take some things away from, how those other guys prepare as well, and I know individually, Federer's the alpha, and I get that, but like in terms of being able to lead a team, there's still some holes to be made up with in terms of that, so I hope we get more clarity in the coming months, Mike. I hope there's not as much speculation.
But clarity is not a word that we've used very often in the past 6 months.
Look, I like going to the source when it comes to things, whether it's from players or from promoters or whatever. Problem is that if you don't get any answers on the record, it makes things a little difficult, and then you just leave the door open for speculation and things like that when I don't feel like it has to be. Whether it's a popular opinion or an unpopular one, or you take a stance that's going to piss off some players or not, at least shoot them straight. One way or the other, just shoot the players straight. That way they know what they're getting into before they go and sign up. I'm excited for Hanoi. I'm excited for Vietnam. I'm excited for Indonesia as well, Mike. I am going to be watching both the Reyes and Moscone Cup like everyone else, and it's still going to be a solid event. It's just, I can remember this time last year, there was like so many different ways that I wanted to go and scoreboard watch. And going into the same stretch this year, it's not even close.
No,
it is not. Yeah. It is not even. It is not even close.
There's a little bit of scoreboarding to watch for Team Europe for Moscone Cup. Scoreboard watching it because you'll have two major Moscone Cup, so there could be some shift. When it comes to that,
we're going to try to get on more players. I'm still going to try to get on Yap because I can't wait to talk to him and just.
Fran, Jonas, and David are available anytime we need them.
Look, listen. If they're willing to be unfiltered, gladly. You know what I mean? No, listen. Those guys are
three guys on at the same time talking shit. That would be the best.
Let them get fired up. Yeah, that's what I want. Let them get fired up, passionate about it. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about. And we need it today. Nick says, I'm more excited for Reyes Cup than Moscone. I am as well. At least with the Reyes Cup, Mike, for me, at least there's some questions to what could be. I don't think that even if you were to have Sky on that team, that 5-man team of the rest of the world, it's very competitive because I do feel like he's very clutch, like I mentioned before. And there's question marks. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what to expect. And I know Asia was dominating the Europeans last year, but there's still this unknown factor where the Moscone Cup, it's like.
You think there's unknown factor? I think everybody on Team Asia is gotten better in the last 12 months. Chua, Carlo.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
How those three guys hitting them?
Never heard of them. Never.
I think they're rolling into this year stronger than they were last year.
Well, they got all the momentum. Asia's dominating the world, Mike.
Oh,
And here's the funny part about all this that I've been thinking about lately is that they're doing to the Europeans what the Europeans did to the Americans for so long. You know, where like they're picking up all the big checks, taking them back home, bullying them in team events. You know,
Flex doing
Europeans.
the big.
Yeah, man. You know, listen, they could be some front runners on that blue and yellow team. I'm just saying. You know,
Tell you what,
and
I have enjoyed seeing humble Europeans over the past 6 months.
yeah.
We've
Look,
been waiting a while.
There's plenty of monsters, and look, the more that you're going to see events out in Asia, it's going to get worse for you Europeans. I hate to say it, because the more you get,
Well, that's the thing. We said that a year and a half ago. You know, as they start building up more of these events in Asia, and you start seeing these guys come out more frequently, you know, it's gonna catch up in a real hurry, and it really did.
Yeah, I mean, already I saw Matchroom's post earlier about the past 8 winners, and it's like that's the new norm. It's the Asians and Federer.
Yeah.
The Asians and Federer are the new norm. You know what I mean? And even then, Federer is picking up like in this year's case, the second place at the World Championships, but obviously he's not showing any signs of slowing down. But like when it comes to everyone else, like outside of like filler, obviously, right? But like it seems like the Asians are just, they not only showed up, they kicked that door open and they made it their own, Mike, at this point. So anyhow, Mike, you done pissing off people today? It's pretty good welcome back after a week off.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I saw Jerry just posting about the you know, I've seen stuff on a couple, I think Absolute Pool posted, Sharkstream shared it about, you know, a Reyes Cup for women.
Yeah.
With the Asians and the rest of the world. And the lineups look pretty cool. But as far as that actually happening, it's certainly not going to happen through Matchroom. So it wouldn't be a Reyes Cup. It would
no, and that's the other thing, Mike, because like you'll see,
like Charlie Williams did this some years ago. Called it the Queen's Cup.
Yeah.
The Queen's Cup had the top Asian women against top women for the rest of the world. And that was a good event, a really good event. So, you know, if someone wanted to do that, you know, certainly, I mean, Predator has done a lot with the women. You know, they include women in all these things, done the Women World Championships. I think that could be a really cool event. Now, would Predator want to do something that much mimics a Matchroom event? I don't know, but it would be a cool event.
Well, they're not afraid, at least, to like think outside the box in terms of like seeing if it sticks and then pivoting. You know, we saw that with some of their like invitational type events even this year. You know what I mean? And accommodating markets, and you know.
Well, but what they try to do with their events, because they have the usual men's world championship or men's open, women's world championship, whatever, is they do a doubles or team that mixes men and women because they got them both in the same arena. So would they do one that was just women? And maybe, I don't know. It would be cool though.
I think there's enough of an infrastructure there and a relationship, at least prior to, with the WPBA, where like you can figure out a way to make it work, you know. And if fans want to see it, which invitationals and team events are really like, at least that it seems like there's a lot more of enjoyment.
Office,
yeah, when it comes to stuff like that, and at least it gives them more things to strive for. Like you, I don't think it'll be a Matchroom, and that's why like these we've seen it before, where like they had Kelly at an invitational before, or this past year Seau in the Women's World 9-Ball Championship. We've seen Savannah play in the junior events. It's like they'll really highlight when the women do go and play their open events, but the reality is they're not going to be able to make any money out there, you know? And so
they're not. Matchroom. Well, Matchroom is not doing women's events, period. Never have, never will.
And they also said they were merit-based, Mike, and we saw where that went. So Anyhow, Mike, I think that'll be good for today. We'll try to do more shows.
Yeah, this is a
it's a long
record.
show, man.
It is a
We have to
record.
catch up on some things.
All you guys who popped in late and missed the first 30 minutes, that was pretty good stuff too. Talking about World 10 Ball.
Look, we really pissed them off, Mike. That's for sure. We really
hit the rewind button.
Yeah. Enjoy the week. We'll have more shows. I'm going to get on some more shows this week. So, Mike, keep your phone off of airplane mode for me anyway. All of you guys, keep your notifications on.
Okay.
Appreciate all the sponsors.